Let's get this thing started, folks. Yeah, I gotta let y'all know what's happening here. So I had forgotten to do this slideshow based on Mr. George Bernard Worrell Jr. Well, last show I gotta do, I forgotten to do one, but what you see right across from me is a Hesser. See, it's a Hesser cooling fan. My sister went and got herself one well before she got me one. She got me she got me one just like the one she has now. She has a cooling fan. She can put the ice and water in it. You see here, I had to connect my PlayStation 5 to my own little personal router here. Oh, man. It's my own personal router over there. So yeah, my own personal router is my Netgear router along my Eris modem. Had to get connected. Had to get my PS5 connected to the router, so it don't even have any hiccups like it did anymore. Period. Now we're gonna go into we're gonna go to the into this Isley Brothers thing that they had all this beef over the estate of one Isley brother who had to be Rudolph Isley, who have passed away. Beef already happened between. Listen, the beef was happening over the estate of Rudolph Isley. That happened. I had to go do a live show based on that. On I'm gonna do the report on another video. I'm not gonna mix it into that. I'm gonna do that on another video. We're going to go to work on this now. Let's go to Mr. You know, the guy who was American keyboardist who has known to replace Mickey Atkins, who was a keyboardist first. This is what go take you to. I mean, this guy's like a Jersey dude. I mean, few of these guys were right across from each other, man. William Nelson Jr., Cordell Massoon, uh, Glenn Goins, uh, who else? Who the hell else? Gary Scheider. Yeah, Gary Scheider. Who else? Um, who else? And Grady Thomas. Grady Thomas from the Parliaments. This was long before it became the original P. We're going straight into the story right here. Before I had to go get to the biography, we're going to read this from the top. George Bernard Worrell Jr. This man was an American keyboardist and a record producer who was best known as a founding member of the Parliament Funkadelic Collective and a touring member of the Talking Heads alongside the people that's in there, along with who else was there? You know, well, likes of Tina Weymouth and Chris France and David Byrne and Jerry Harrison. They've been in the game since 1975. Yeah, the man was like a touring member of the Talking Heads in the 1980s. So Raptor, he was the founding member of Parliament Funkadelic Collective. So he also worked with such producers and musicians like as the people that he'd been working with was let me see, Keith Richards, who was an English musician, songwriter, singer, and record producer. Yoko Ono, who was a Japanese artist, musician, and peace activist, and her work has also encompasses the performance art and filmmaking. I already did a live show based on her over 3 years ago. I did two part. I did a live show like two part. I did like a two-part live show based on her. William Laswell, well they call him Bill. Most Def, who had to be Yassine Bey, Sly and Robbie. Sly and Robbie who were like a prolific Jamaican rhythm section and production duo. Fela Kuti, who was a Nigerian musician and a political activist. He is regarded as the principal innovator of the Afrobeat, and it was like a Nigerian music genre that combines West African music with American funk and jazz at the height of its popularity. And Jack Bruce, John Simon Asher Bruce. The New York Times journalist Jonathan Porellis, who was an American journalist, who he was like the chief popular music critic in the art section the um, of the New York Times from 1988 all the way to like last year. He has described Worrell as the kind of the sideman that who is so as influential. Let me explain to you. He described Worrell as the kind of sideman who is an influential as some of the band leaders, and stated that he indelibly changed the sound of funk and hip hop music until until Worrell was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame along with the members, especially the collective. Back in 1997, he was a member of the Parliament Funkadelic Collective. He was inducted into the into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997. He was a member of Parliament Funkadelic alongside the members there. Who was there? Uh, William Collins. Who else was there? William Collins, Grady Thomas, Calvin Simon, uh, Grady Thomas, Clarence Haskins, Ray Davis, aka Stingray. Who else was there? William Nelson Jr., Cardell Monsoon, Gary Scheider. Yeah, Gary Scheider was in there. Who else was in there? Damn. Jerome Bigfoot Braley, the guy who was the co-author of Give Up the Funk, Tear the Roof Off the Sucker. And those including George Clinton, you know, he was there. Yeah. Well, they're not gonna laugh at Bootsy for for his painted fingernails. They already seen how the nail polish will attract some women. So, but Worrell, he also appeared with the Talking Heads when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2002. And Worrell, And he was the uncle of rapper and actor, East Coast rapper and actor, Mr. Chino XL, whose real name is Derek Keith Barboza, who had passed away on July the 28th of 2024. Yeah, yeah, Chino XL was like a rapper and actor. He was known for his evocative wordplay and for warring with the late Tupac Shakur. We're going straight into the story right here. It's not gonna it's not gonna do any longer than this. Let's see. Okay, we got 11 minutes for here. We got 11 minutes. We got 11 minutes to do this. All right. The Wizard of Wu, George Bernard Worrell Jr., was born on April the 19th, 1944 in Long Branch, New Jersey, USA, and he grew up in Plainfield, New Jersey. You know, I mean, along with the people that's no longer with us, Glenn Goins, Cordell Masoon, Gary Scheider, yeah, and who else? William Nelson Jr. That's where Worrell's family moved when he was 8 years old. His father was a truck driver and his mother was a singer. She sang in the church choirs, but he was like a musical prodigy by the age of 3 years old. He was taking piano lessons. At the age of 8, he wrote his first what's the word, concerto. He wrote his first concerto. He did wrote it, and when he was like 10 years old, he performed with the members of the Washington Symphony of Washington, Pennsylvania. Like he studied at the Juilliard School in New York City, and he graduated from Boston's New England Conservatory of Music in the late 1960s. The school would award him an honorary Doctor of Music degree in May of 2016. As a college student, Worrell played organ with uh, an Episcopal church that accompanied a Jewish men's choir and backed a local group. It was called Chubby and the Turnpikes, which eventually evolved into the name Tavares. By the 1970s, when he first met George Clinton, Worrell was the musical director of the R&B singer. You guess who it was? Miss Maxine Brown, who was an American R&B and soul singer at that time. Clinton, who was also a native of Plainfield, who was from Kannapolis, he led the Parliaments that like a doo-wop group that was based out of a local barbershop where he worked when George was a teenager. The Parliaments and their backing band, Funkadelic, that later formed in 1968, then moved to Detroit and became the two intertwined acts known collectively as Parliament Funkadelic, or at least P Funk for short. Worrell moved to Detroit, Michigan after being recruited by Clinton to serve as their keyboardist, yeah, as their keyboardist, their arranger, and band leader. He officially joined the band after appearing on their 1970 debut album. It's titled Funkadelic. The album right here, they want to show me here. See? Let me get that. Worrell and Clinton. They co-wrote numerous P-Funk songs, including the Funk Anthem, It's called Flashlight. Yeah, record company got mad at me because I played a song. I played a song that that Parliament had wrote. But that song, like the funk anthem that they that was already out. That was from the Placebo Syndrome album. Uh, See that the song Flashlight, it's included as a funk anthem. It's a funk anthem in the 1970s, which Rolling Stone had ranked as number 25 on the 200 best dance songs of all time here. But P Funk's futuristic sound they have, like Parliament Funkadelic, their futuristic sound can enlarge that part to be what is it? Let me read this again. Parliament Funkadelic's futuristic sound can enlarge part to be attributed to Worrell, P-Funk, and their spin-off bands, including Bootsy's Bootsy's Rubber Band that was led by William Earl Collins, who was a bass guitarist, singer, and songwriter who was rising to prominence with James Brown in the early 70s before joining the P-Funk collective. The Brides of Funkenstein. The Brides of Funkenstein. They were an American soul and funk girl band originally composed of singers Dawn Silva and Lynn Mabry. Paulette, that was another female funk group that was formed in 1978 as a spin-off P-Funk spin-off. It's like a P-Funk like spin-off. It's short for Parliament. It was conceived by Clinton. Let me explain to you about Paulette. See, this girl group was already been made of vocalists like Jeanette Washington Perkins and the late Debbie Wright and Malia Franklin, Rosalind Franklin. You know what I'm saying? And the two people that joined the group is Janice Evans and Shirley Hayden. Yep. And the Horny Horns that was formed by Mr. Fred Wesley. That was formed by Fred Wesley and the guys that was in there, Richard Griffith, Rick Garner, Maceo Parker, and Fred Wesley, who was the trombonist. These guys, man, they made dozens of records in the 1970s. You're talking about Bootsy's Rubber Band, The Brides of Funkenstein, Paulette, and the Horny Horns. These guys made dozens of records in the 70s. But especially Worrell, he played on and wrote and co-wrote the horn and rhythm arrangements on recordings for most of them. Worrell had played acoustic and electric piano, Hohner clarinet, Hammond organ, and the synthesizers. It was by the company called Moog Music. It was a synthesizer company that was based in North Carolina, and ARP Instruments that was like a manufacturer coming from like Lexington, Massachusetts. It was a manufacturer of electronic musical instruments. The guy who founded uh, that manufacturer company was Alan Perlman. He founded it in the 60s and created some popular and commercially successful range of synthesizers throughout the 70s before declaring bankruptcy in the 80s. But Worrell, his unique sound and songwriting skills can be heard on such songs such as Flashlight, Atomic Dog, that was later released in December of '82. That was from the album Computer Games. Chocolate City, that was from that album that was of the same name. Mothership Connection, that was from the 1975 album of the same name, Mothership Connection. That's Mothership Connection Star Child. That was a funk song. It's a funk song that was by Parliament. It was a third and final single released from them in their 1975 album of the same name, Mothership Connection. The song just introduces the messianic alien alter ego of George Clinton that was for the first time as Star Child, which he created. Aqua Boogie. That means that means Psycho Alpha Disco Beta Bio Aqua Do Loop and Red Hot Mama from Louisiana. Yeah, Red Hot Mama. It was from the album The Standing on the Verge of Getting It On album. All the music that came from, I think it was from Funkadelic. That's from Funkadelic. That was released by Westbound in 1974. So Worrell, his synth lines were so widely sampled throughout the 1990s by the hip hop producers such as Andre Young, aka Dr. Dre, becoming the bedrock of the West Coast G-Funk sound. It was like short for gangster funk. It was a subgenre of gangster rap that emerged from the West Coast scene in the early 1990s. The genre is heavily influenced by the synthesizer heavy 1970s funk sound of Parliament Funkadelic that was often incorporated through samples and re-recordings. Worrell, his mini Moog bass on Flashlight, not only heavily influenced by the sound, not heavily influenced the sound of American R&B music, but it served as a bridge to new wave, new age, and techno. And we're still going to work, folks. Hold on. You gotta fasten your seatbelts, man. It's gonna be a wild ride until we have to do this thing. All right, we got something. We got something here. The 1980s, including, but we gonna get closer to that. We're gonna get closer to that in a minute. In 1978, Worrell he released his debut solo album. It was called All the Woo in the World album here. He released this debut solo album here. I'll show you this. They won't even show me the image of the album. All the woo in the world. They wouldn't show me that image of the album. But the album was already been released by Arista Records. It was on Arista Records in the 1970s. And but it's co-produced by Worrell himself. It's co-produced by Worrell himself and Clinton, George Clinton. It featured many other members of the Parliament Funkadelic Collective and the Brides of Funkenstein. It was like a spin-off group. It was like American Funk group. It's a female funk group. It's a group. But in the early 80s, We're jumping right in. But in the early 1980s, we're going in. Uh, while P-Funk, while P-Funk was on the hiatus from touring, Worrell was recruited to record and perform with the Talking Heads, along with the other musicians, such as guitarists like Alexander Weir, who was an American guitarist. You always see him in on on the George Clinton documentary, and Adrian Belew, Robert Stephen Belew. Even though even though uh, Worrell never have you know he never officially joined the Talking Heads though. He was like a de facto member of the group for much of the decade alone. He appeared on their 1982 album. Their live album is called "The Name of This Band Is Talking Heads." On their 1983 studio album, it was called "Speaking in Tongues," which Rolling Stones David Foicke, he said that finally obliterates the thin line separating arty white pop music and deep black funk. Yeah, that's separating one from the other is from the arty white pop music and and the deep black funk. The deep black funk. It was all there. It separates it. But he also toured with the band. He also toured with the band, notably featuring in the 1984 concert film. It was called "Stop Making Sense." Uh, is directed by Jonathan Demme. Jonathan Demme, he's the guy that directed the concert film. That's Jonathan Demme, Robert Jonathan Demme. He's directed the film in the 80s, but the film is considered one of the best music concert films of all time. Here, the Talking Heads frontman, that's a guy who did the song for with the Talking Heads. That was for I think that was for the Down and Out in Beverly Hills movie soundtrack. That's David Byrne. He's a film writer. He's a writer. He's a musician. He's a visual artist and filmmaker. He was a founding member, and the principal songwriter, lead vocalist, and the guitarist of the band. You know, he once said that Bernie changed the way. He said that Bernie changed the way I think about music and the way I think about life. The Talking Heads have officially disbanded in the early 1990s, 1991. But Worrell, he was so invited to perform with them again for their one-off reunion concert at the 2002 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. In 1983, Worrell he played on was it Mtume and Karl Marx's hit "Juicy Fruit." In 1984, Worrell he co-produced a solo album that was for Fred Schneider. It was called Fred Schneider. It's called Fred Schneider and the Shake Society, and he played the keyboards and the synthesizers that was on some of the album's tracks. But in the late 1980s, he appeared on Talking Heads member Joey Harrison's solo album. It was a solo album. It was called Casual Gods. It was from Joey Harrison. Get his real name here, Jeremiah Griffin Harrison. Okay, the LP it featured the U.S. album rock tracks. And the chart is called Rev It Up. uh, which had reached number 7 and appeared in a film called Something Wild. From the late 1980s, from the late 1980s through the 2010s, separately, that's between that. Worrell, he recorded extensively with a producer who goes by the name of Bill Laswell, who I know that I mentioned of. Yep, D. William Otis, D. William Otis, yeah, D. William Otis Bill Laswell. Uh, he extensively worked with him, and he was included on the he appeared on Sly and Robbie's 1987 Rhythm Killers album. The 1985 Fela Kuti album called Army Arrangement. They never want to show me the image. And the two albums in the 1990s with the jazz saxophonist Pharoah Sanders, who was a jazz saxophonist known for his overblowing harmonic and multiphonic techniques on the saxophone, as well as his use of sheets of sound. It was called Save Our Children. It was an album that just came out in '98. It's a 1998 album that was released by Pharoah Sanders, and another album that came out right before it is a message from home. Man, I'll tell you about Worrell. Worrell ain't playing. Worrell is doing what he had to do most, but he became a visible member of the jam band scene, performing at the large summer festivals, sometimes as billed as the Bernie Worrell, yeah, the Bernie Worrell and the Wool Warriors, and it's later renamed as the Bernie Worrell, yeah, the Bernie Worrell Orchestra. Worrell had frequently performed with Warren Haynes's band. It was called the Government Mule. The Government Mule. It was like an American South rock jam. That was it was a rock jam. It was a rock jam band that was in the South. It was formed by these guys. Haynes and a bassist who had to be Alan Woody, and another drummer, and a drummer who I didn't ever knew of. His name was Matt Abs. His name is Matt ABTS, I think. But between the years of 1989 and 2003, he appeared on several of Jack Bruce's albums, including A Question of Time from 1989, The Cities of Heart, The Cities of the Heart here. Oh, it came out same as it came out right after that one. It was a 1993 album that was like a double CD. Uh, it was called The Cities of the Heart. It was a double CD that was released of sections of the two live performances that was given on 2 and the 2nd and the 3rd of November of 1993. It was in Germany, in Cologne, Germany. That's where Bernie Worrell decided to go. He goes to Germany in like 1993, 1998. I think it was, he didn't go in 1993. I think he went there like 1998. In 1998, he always goes there. And you got another album that came out, Monk Jack. Monk Jack. It was an album that was released by him in October of 1995. I was like in my teens then. And More Jack Than God, that came out in the summer of 2003. It was released by Jack Bruce himself. I was out of high school by then, so let me explain to y'all now, man. We gotta do some work here. Okay, when the Late Show with David Letterman launched in August of 1993, Worrell was a founding member of the CBS Orchestra, playing lead synthesizer. Following that November, Worrell had departed once the orchestra by added a horn section. By 1994, he appeared on the Red Hot Organization's compilation album. It was called Stolen Moments, Red Hot plus Cool, the album. It meant to raise awareness and the funds in support of the AIDS epidemic in the African American community. It means the black community. It was heralded as the album of the year by Time magazine. In 2002, after meeting with the Bonnaroo, after meeting at the Bonnaroo, what's the word? The Bonnaroo Music Festival here. I think it was called the Bonnaroo Music Festival. Worrell, along with Primus's bassist Les Claypool. Uh, yeah. Let me tell you about Les Claypool. Les Claypool, he was a bassist uh, for Primus, and Buckethead. Buckethead was like the guitarist. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows Buckethead. Everybody knows Buckethead. That's Brian Patrick Carroll. Uh, and you got another drummer here by the name of Brain, who had to be Brian Mancha, and they have formed a supergroup called Colonel Claypool's. Yeah, it's called Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains. They released and they did the job. They released just one album. It was called The Big Eyeball in the Sky. It was a 2004 album. But around that time, the same time that Worrell had performed, now I won't say performed, but around that same time, Worrell had formed what is it? What did he have formed here? Black Jack Johnson. It was the New Danger. It was with Most Def again. Uh, William Calhoun, um, who was in the living who was the Living Color American drummer. Douglas Wimbish. Douglas Wimbish was a bassist for Living Color. But he was with Tack Head especially. It was a funk dub hip hop collective, and he was in a session with the artists like the Sugar Hill Gang, Grandmaster Flash, and the Furious Five, and the Rolling Stones, and Mick Jagger. Dr. No, who had to be Gary Miller. Yeah, the man just formed. Let me tell you, the man just formed Black Jack Johnson with Most Def, William Calhoun, Doug Wimbish, and Dr. No. Uh, but in 2004, they appeared on Most Def's album The New Danger. The same year that he appeared in a documentary. It was called Moog. It was about the synthesizer pioneer who had ran that company, Robert Moog. Robert Arthur Moog. Yeah, Robert Arthur Moog, who was electronics engineer and electronic music pioneer, who had founded the Moog. He founded Moog Music. It was like a synthesizer manufacturer company. But in 2009, he joined he joined a guy who was a guitarist that was for the Parliament Funkadelic Collective. It was guitarist Dwayne Blackbird McKnight, right here. Dwayne Blackbird McKnight. This guy was featured in documentaries like the George Clinton documentary and the Untold Story of Parliament Funkadelic documentary, like Tear the Roof Off. But he was in two documentaries. And you got a bassist right here, Melvin Gibbs. Melvin Gibbs was like a bass guitarist who had appeared on close to 200 albums in the diverse genres of the music business, among others. The man was known. The man was known for working in jazz with a drummer named Ronald Shannon Jackson. Ronald Shannon Jackson was a drummer, and Sonny Sharrock. Sonny Sharrock was a guitarist. So he did his job by being there. And another drummer who goes by the name of J.T. Lewis to form the band. It was called Sociolibrium, who toured Europe. Their album is called For You, For Us, For All. It was released on Live Wired Music in January of 2010. He toured with William Earl Bootsy Collins. Was in there with him. Who was like, there's another major figure that was from the Parliament Funkadelic Collective in 2011. That's how he toured with. He toured with Bootsy, who was another major figure in P Funk. Another major figure from P Funk. I just misconstrued it. Let me go back. Let me go into this one right here before he died. It says final years of what he had lived on Earth before he passed away. Uh, before he was diagnosed with cancer from 2011 through 2015. Worrell had performed with his group that he had named after him, the Bernie Worrell Orchestra, the band which was formed out of a partnership with a young New Jersey producer who goes by the name of Evan Taylor. He was known for, you know, for appearance of special guest stars and guests at their live performances, including William Earl Collins, who had to be Bootsy, Joey Harrison, who had to be Jeremiah Harrison, bassist Tina Weymouth, and Chris Friends, who was like a drummer of the Talking Heads. And who was that? Tom Tom Club. It was a new wave band that has been founded in the early 1980s. Well, Chris and Tina, they were together, but they're still married. I didn't even know they were married. Blondie, and this Blondie right here, especially they had a keyboardist that was for Blondie. It was like an American rock band that's been formed in the 70s. It was in the East Coast. It was by this woman named Debbie Harry. Okay, the guy who was doing the keyboarding for Blondie and Debbie Harry is James Destry, Jimmy Destry, who was a musician and the original longest serving keyboardist for the band. Bassist Michael Watt. That man's old as hell, man. He was a vocalist and a songwriter and bassist. He founded um, in He co-founded and played bass guitar for Minutemen. That was like the rock bands that was called Minutemen. The Minutemen, that's that one rock band that's been in the game. Those included, they been in the game, and Fire Hose, they've been in the game since the 80s. These guys have been in the game since the 80s. But Watt had began a solo career with the album called Ball Hog and Tugboat. Ball Hog or Tugboat, that was like a something he was working on. He was from the groups that he was already in. Minutemen, yeah. There's Fire Hose. There's Captain. And then there's a group right here. Hey, let me see here. Let me explain to you here. I did not know that that Bernie Worrell had already did his work by trying to include people like Bootsy Collins, Jerry Harrison, Tina Weymouth, you know what I mean, Chris Frantz, Tom Tom Club, Jimmy Destry, and Mike Watt, who was from those groups like Minutemen and Firehose. And I don't know he was happy. I think there's some people that's right there. Gary Lucas. Gary Lucas was a guitarist for Captain Beefheart. Don Van Vliet, who had already started the group. He called himself. It wasn't a stage name, but Captain Beefheart. Uh, he had a guitarist who had to be Gary Lucas right here. He was with them. He was with Don. Gary was with Don most of the decade. Uh, Especially they have released they have released the two albums that was up to date. One was BWO is Landing and Prequel. But in 2012, 2013, in 2013, that was what two days, that's like both years became known. Uh, it was on the behest of it. Uh, in 2012 and 2013, respectively. Worrell had also played a series of concerts with a known rock guitarist who had to be Stephen Kimmock. Steve Kimmock, who was a rock guitarist who was with Zero and KVHW, and the bassist for Government Mule, Andrew Hess, Andy Hess, I think. He was in Government Mule. That was between the 2000s, and a vocalist percussionist who goes by the name of Camille Armstrong. But in 2013, John Morgan Kimmock, who was Steve Kimmock's son, he had played the drums for the group. But in 2015, you got to see why he was featured in those films. Yeah, man. Bernie Worrell is a freaking genius behind the keyboard. He appeared in the movie Ricky and the Flash. It's the movie here. It was released in 2015. It was a comedy. It was a comedy drama that Jonathan Demme and Diablo Cody had directed and written. They had featured him alongside Meryl Streep, Mamie Gummer, and Kevin Kline as Billy. Yeah, he played as Billy, and I know how Bernie would play. Bernie would play as Billy, and I mean, the keyboard player in a band that was like fictional. That was from Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep The actress. Well, her real name is Mary Louise Streep. Why why would Mr. Bernie Worrell had to appear in a movie called Ricky and the Flash as the guy named Billy, who was a keyboard player in a band that was led by Mary Louise Merrill Streep. The film is about a woman who leaves her family behind to join a rock band, reunited by Worrell, and reunited Worrell with the director, uh, who had to be Robert Jonathan Demme, who had directed the Talking Heads concert film Stop Making Sense. Worrell and Preston Singletary have co-founded the indigenous music group is KUEX, KHUEEX. See the wave here, the wave for this wave right here, the wave from the Woo universe, the Woo universe. That wave, folks. I cannot know how to get that wave back. Yeah, the lights are acting up, man. In 2024, yeah, in 2024, the wave from the Woo universe, the Woo universe. It's like a posthumous double album was released using unfinished tracks that was left behind by Bernie Worrell, who had later died of prostate cancer and liver cancer, stage 4, and lung cancer. Let me explain it to you. This posthumous double album here, The Wave from the Wooniverse, The Wave from the Wooniverse, it dated back to over 2 years. It was released. It's using the unfinished tracks that Worrell had left behind. The album was still produced by Evan Taylor, who was an ex band leader for Bernie Worrell. Bernie Worrell band leader, yeah, Evan Taylor. It was produced by Evan Taylor, who was a let me say he was like a band leader for Bernie Worrell, and the contributors had included Jerry Harrison from the Talking Heads and Frederick Schneider that was from the B-52s. That was like some sort of a band. It was a rock band that was been in the game since the 70s. And we got somebody else here that I never get a chance to mention. Sean Lennon. Sean Taro Ono Lennon. He's the son of Yoko Ono and the late John Lennon, who have gotten killed in New York in December 4th of 1980 by a guy named Mark David Chapman. He's like the trigger man that killed Lennon. But Sean Lennon is the half brother of Julian Lennon and Kyoko Cox. Mark Ribot, who was a guitarist and a composer. No Wood Fisher from Fishbone. Michael Watt, and this one of these people here, and this person here, Miho Hattori, from this band here in New York. Out of New York, it was called Sibo Matto. that has been around since the 90s. And this is something we don't see here. Sadness that the sadness might have lived within and not seen. Look what happened to them now. People that's gone, you cannot bring them back again. Nothing you can do to bring these people back. But I feel bad. I feel for the people, man, especially the family of Bernie Worrell, especially his wife, Judy. Sad. It's sad that I had to read this. That was kind of like that kind of cut people. But I had to read this anyway. The death in January 2016, George Bernard Worrell Jr. was diagnosed with a mild form of prostate cancer, stage 4 liver cancer, and stage 4 lung cancer. He relocated from his longtime home in New Jersey to Bellingham, Washington. Bellingham, Washington. The two benefit concerts that was at Webster Hall, that was in New York, that was on April the 4th and 5th of that year. It helped raise the funds for Worrell's cancer treatment. It was produced by the BRC, the Black Rock Coalition. The event featured musicians and celebrities, including Meryl Streep, George Clinton, Paul Schaefer, Jerry Harrison, Bootsy Collins, Nona Hendrix from Lavelle, Living Color, and Robert Jonathan Demme. On May 9th, Judith Worrell, Judith Worrell, the wife of Bernie Worrell, had posted an update on his condition on his Facebook page. And it says, as of Friday, Bernie Bernie can barely speak. The tumor has grown and recurrent. Laryngeal nerve is pressing on vocal cord, it, paralyzing it. The treatment starts Tuesday and hopefully shrink tumor before it gets to other vocal cord and or shuts down the breathing. Very difficult time for him. I am updating y'all because many ask, but do not consider this an invitation to bombard us with treatment ideas. Bernie is deciding what treatment he wants. I will delete any more messages that do not respect his decisions. Judy Judy had issued a statement on Facebook on June 16th to friends and family, and that she has said that I was just told that Bernie is now headed home, and she encouraged the people close to Worrell to visit him and say your goodbyes, and added that he was too ill to speak on the phone or text. George Bernard Worrell Jr., who's also known as Bernie, died at his home in Everson, Washington on June the 24th, 2016, at the age of 72. Following, following his death, Buckethead released a tribute song, Buckethead, released a tribute song that was called Space Viking. Space Viking. The documentary here is down below. Stranger. Bernie Worrell on Earth. Bernie Worrell on Earth is a documentary film about Worrell's life, music, and impact. At All Movie critic Mark Deming wrote that the film profiles his life and career while also examining how even a genius has to find a way to make a living. There's 1970s here, solo albums here. I'll go read those to you. I have the right to read those to you here. All the wool in the world, Fun Pages, Blacktronic Science, Pieces of Wool, The Other Side, Free Agent, A Spaced Odyssey, Improvisario, Improvisario, Christmas Wool. They got some stuff that he was featured in. Funkadelic, Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow, Maggot Brain, Murica Eats Its Young, Cosmic Slop, Standing on the Verge of Getting It On, Let's Take It to the Stage. That's from Funkadelic. The album, the album work he was featured with Parliament, Osmium, Up for the Downstroke, Chocolate City, The Mothership Connection, The Clones of Dr. Funkenstein, The Clones of Dr. Funkenstein. We got the words here. The contributions to other albums that was been selected here. Uh, Johnny Taylor, Waiter Extraordinaire, Jerry Harrison, The Red and the Black, The Spinners, Can't Shake This Feeling, George Clinton, Computer Games, Talking Heads. The name of this band is Talking Heads. Juicy Fruit from Emma Mtume and Karl Marx. Talking Heads, Speaking in Tongues, and Stop Making Sense. Rita Coolidge, Never Let You Go. Fred Schneider, Fred Schneider and the Shake Society. Philip Kuti, Army Arrangement, The Golden Palominos, The Visions of Excess. Ginger Baker, The Horses and Trees. Public Image, LTD album. Jerry Harrison, The Casual Gods. Jesse Ray, The Destal. Praxis, Transmutation. Mutatus Mutandis. Jack Bruce, One Jack. Julian Schnabel, Every Silver Lining Has a Cloud. Gotta look at this for one. It's all this red stuff here. I'm gonna take it 2 hours. We'll go do it for like an hour and a half. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. Okay, he was in I Don't Even Know. Standards. BWO is landing. Prequel. Yeah, prequel. Elevation. Retrospectives. The posthumous album called The Wave from the Woo Universe. He was featured in Tales of Kid Funkadelic. That's for Funkadelic. That's the other half. Hardcore Jollies. One Nation Under a Groove. Uncle Jam Wants You. Live Metalborg, Rochester, Michigan. This is from September 12th, 1971, when they had to perform there. Toys. First, you gotta shake the gate. The other half here is from Parliament. Live P Funk. Live P Funk Earth Tour. He's featured in that. Funkenteleki. Yeah, Funkenteleki versus the Placebo Syndrome. Motor Booty Affair. Glory Hella Stupid. Trombipulation. The other half here is Third Rail. Uh, Pharaoh Sanders' Message from Home. That was the third whale was from James Blood Ulmer, William Laswell, and the South Delta Space Age. Uh, Robin Ford, Tiger Walk. Live with a little help from our friends. That's from Government Mule. Pharaoh Sanders. Pharaoh Sanders, Save Our Children. Tarai Shin, whatever his name is. Unison. Shin Tarai. Okay. It's the album Unison. Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains. The Big Eyeball in the Sky. Most Def. The New Danger. Monkeys Striking Matches. Wreck It. With the likes of singer Bo Diddley, who had to be Elias Bates. He's a guitarist, singer, and songwriter who had played a key role in the transition from the blues to the rock and roll era. He had influenced so many artists like Buddy Holly, the Beatles, the Stones, the Animals, and George Thorogood, and the Destroyers. In Public Enemy's Chuck D, who had to be Carlton Douglas Rittenhauer. That's Carlton Douglas Rittenhauer, also known as Chuck D. Yeah. Okay. GG, Golden Wax, Baby Elephant, Turn My Teeth Up, Shin Tarai, Light Years, Praxis, Tennessee 2004, Praxis, Profanation, Preparation for a Coming Darkness, Science Faction, like FAXTION, Living on Another Frequency, the Eric Madden Trio, Delicate Fate, the Joe Neck Band Slink, Jesse Ray, Worrell, and then in 2013 he was nominated for Get Your Hands Off, the best funk fusion jam song. That kicks me straight in the ass. That hurt. And that just kicks you straight in the dick. Too many pissants on the end of it, but I gotta go do another restart on this piece of shit ass PC here. This fucking PC is begging for another restart. I just restarted this motherfucker. I gotta go restart it again. All because of stupid OneDrive. All because of stupid OneDrive. Mm. I'm just glad to stay out the alias thing and leave it real. I'm gonna keep this thing real. I gotta keep this thing real. Oh, April the 19th, 1944. Got it. Oh, I got it right this time. I got it right this time. I did get it real. I did get it right and good. Yep. I got one thing I have to do before I'm glad to go restart this stupid PC again. I got another video that I have to do right after I'm gonna have to restart this PC. But this live show and the story is dedicated into the memoriam of one of our beloved guitarists, not guitarist, one of our beloved keyboardists in the history of the music business, Mr. George Bernard Worrell Jr., who's also known as Bernie, as Bernie, as short. Born on April the 19th, 1944, and died on June the 24th, 2016. Rest in peace, George Bernard Worrell Jr.